So backed by popular demand, and I had thrown a clip up of my last interview as one of my favorite clips of 2022, From the Streets to the Suites. And we're going to get into some deep recovery, folks, so get your napkins out. Let me just talk a little bit about CFC recovery, which is an alternative way of staying sober. Much different approach than AA's 12 steps, much more inclusive on certain things that AA non-judgment that doesn't have. And I have with me the executive director, Alyssa Regan. How are you, Alyssa?
Good to see you.
Thank you so much for being back on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited.
And as am I. Your story is one of the most touching, greatest examples of success in the game of life that I've ever been a part of. Ever even spoken about or even interviewed. And I can't stress that enough. Wow. So you were kicked out at 19 while you have a scholarship. And do you talk to your parents? Do you have any? Is there any?
I have no contact with them.
So you then got a full-time job at 19. What was your job?
I was working in retail because I had no skills, so I couldn't get anything above like minimum wage paying job. So I was working in retail.
Were you scared? Like, what was going on with you at that point?
I was, again, I have a tendency to be very stubborn. So I think I immediately disassociated. This isn't happening to me. I'm like, this isn't happening all over again, and I'm just going to have to figure it out. So in those moments, it was really problem solving. But I feel like once I was in a safe space to be able to actually feel those things, I definitely was dealing with a lot of those traumas, being abandoned all over again.
Were you living with friends or anything at this point? Like, where were you?
Yeah, so I was actually couch surfing, like just setting up sleepovers with a bunch of my friends. And I happened to, my one friend was leaving for college, and I forget how we figured it out, but I spent the night with her. And I told her, what was happening with my parents. And she had snuck out of the room while I was sleeping to tell her family what was going on. And I came down the stairs the next morning to go to work. She was going to drop me off before she left for college. And her dad was sitting on the couch and saw me come down with my little duffel bag. And he told me to leave my bags at the door and that he would see me after work. And I went home and I stayed there for 2 years, and they just, they took me in.
What was that like?
Amazing, really. I never had someone take a chance on me in that way. And they actually had a conversation with my parents to let them know, like, your daughter's here. Maybe we could help mediate a conversation. And my parents had shared information with them that made it seem like I was like this violent, aggressive child, and that they would soon learn who Alyssa really is.
So they were resentful.
And they didn't let that sway them. They just, put some faith in me, and they really helped me, get the stable life that I needed to get a good job and really get up under.
So what was your job during that? So like what happened? Did you get like a job that led to CFC?
Yeah. So I had only been living with them for about 2 weeks, and then a mutual friend had texted me and invited me to go whitewater rafting. It was like 6 a.m. Again, I'm 19 and it's 6 a.m. I'm also like homeless, really. Like, I didn't know how long I was going to be staying with these people. So I'm like, I'm not.
By the way, the uncertainty of not knowing how long you're going to stay, did that stay with you every day? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still feel that now?
I do, but I'm in a lot of therapy for that.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
So she texted me at 6 a.m. to invite me to go whitewater rafting. And again, I grew up in a very different neighborhood. We do not go whitewater rafting.
I
that
don't know what that was either.
I
still don't know what it is.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm not doing that. It's 6 a.m. I'm sleeping. And she called me a little while later and she's like, hey, I'm going to go to a party tonight. Do you want to come? And I'm like, yeah, I'll go to a party. Like, again, I'm like 2 weeks in. I've had like a really tumultuous couple of months. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to really party, because my parents were so strict and conservative. I'd never even had a drink up until that point. So I get there, and that's where I met Daniel. It was actually a CFC sober hot tub party. They invited pizza. And we had a conversation, and he eventually asked me on a date. And
so wait, so you went to a sober party, not knowing you were going to a sober party.
Yep.
How many years did he have at that point?
2.
Okay, so he did the right thing, from a standpoint. They always say stay sober at least 1 year, right? I don't know if CFC says that, but I know I say you can't go on no dates until at least 1 year. So
He did not follow that rule, if you're wondering.
well, you can want to date, no relationship, as long as you're honest
Yeah, he didn't follow.
about your intentions. You can't like say this, oh baby, I love you, and then
No,
and then,
Dan is totally a
John.
lover
It's got to
boy.
be honest. Remember, John was there when I first got sober. Yeah. Remember, they were throwing nickels out. They were throwing fruit at me when I was on a lunch date with somebody when I worked on Wall Street. We'll talk about. I was on a date, and all of a sudden, fruit was getting thrown at me from like 100 feet away.
It's good friends.
That was my friend, right?
Yeah.
John Spring, everybody. Look at him. So you meet Daniel, and how quick is it like, hey, hello, we like each other, to like now you're ingrained in the family, and that whole, I'm sure the love was like that whole, your ride is so incredible. Like all the role, it's so insanely like great, but every part of it.
I'm gonna put Dan on blast. He told me he loved me after knowing me for 3 days.
He knew what he wanted.
And so it happened pretty quickly. We were just kind of.
How did that feel for you though? Like you're used to not, like you're now getting love, right?
Yeah.
Like
I was like, this boy.
what did
is
that feel
crazy.
like though?
Yeah.
Like, and it kept, but even his family and everything, right? Like what was that? That must have been. I'm just thinking, you must have been like, hey, when's the shoe gonna drop?
Yeah.
Right? Like
yeah. It was definitely like that. And you're coming into a family of entrepreneurs.
yes. Entrepreneurs.
You know, his mom had already owned multiple businesses at that point, and CFC was just starting. His dad was very successful. They lived in a beautiful house in Farmingdale. They had horses. His sisters were competition riders. It felt like just a lot to come into. And very big Italian family, very loud. They hug, they kiss, there are no secrets. And especially given Dan's addiction, there really were no secrets at that point. They talked about everything all the time. And so it was very intimidating going into that. It didn't sink in until like a year or two, where I was really starting to feel very comfortable and going, wow, like this is, I'm really a part of this and I deserve this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And how was Dan like with you? Like he must have had like a lot of, I'm not going to say patience, but he must have felt like how he could share this with you and you feel comfortable. Was the first year tough like that, or was it fun, or was it?
I tried to get Dan to break up with me after we were dating for 6 months.
Wow. Was that a test?
No, it was, I just wasn't secure with myself. I really felt like he deserved more.
Got it.
And, again, his family is very successful. And
so you didn't feel like you belong.
I just didn't feel like, I was like, why wouldn't you want to be with someone who isn't homeless and working like 3 part-time jobs trying to like scrounge money together to buy a car?
Yeah. And what did he say?
He said, do you really want me to break up with you? And I said, no. And he's like, all right, then shut up. And that was the last of that conversation. Dan's just he's been very patient with me. And he's just very intuitive. I think that's why, the recovery plan that he molded for himself worked for him, because he's just a very feelings kind of person, and allows people to have this space that they need to really grow. He's never stopped me from doing anything and has been like my #1 supporter over the last 10 years.
So, and how many kids you and Dan have?
We have 2.
That's awesome. So now you're with each other. When did you start working for CFC? And what was your initial step and role?
Yeah, so my involvement really, we were only dating for 2 weeks when the first Rock the Farm happened.
Oh, wow.
And it was on the family farm. It was still pretty big.
Did that intimidate you?
Yeah. I mean, I was like, what are they? It
intimidated me too.
Yeah,
I was there.
Like, what are they doing? It was not as big as it is now, but it was still, I mean, they had like 3,000 people at their first Rock the Farm. That's all friends and family and like just whatever word on the street that they could get. And it was impressive. They had stages and 10 bands, and it was really cool. So my first involvement with that was just volunteering. Like whenever I could, because again, I was working full time now. So whenever I could help out as a volunteer, I would. And that was like you're licking envelopes and mailing out mailers with Lynn one day, or you're, setting up Rock the Farm for 3 days in a row. So that was my initial involvement. It wasn't until my sister-in-law got involved with the organization. She was doing marketing. And she asked me to help her with some, graphic design. And that's kind of where I got more in the inner workings of CFC.
Yeah, and because a lot of people watch this channel are entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur. That's all I know. I don't know traditional. And for the entrepreneurs out there, it's like starting here, right? And executive director now, 10 years later, or is it 10?
Yeah.
10 years later, it's going to be it wasn't just given to Alyssa at all. She had to earn it every step of the way. And we always talk about mentors. Who's your top 5? Who are the top 5 people that are giving you information that could positively impact what you do next, where you could stand on their shoulders, turn decades into days, and really kind of shrink time or collapse time and create scale? It seems like to me that you had a front row seat to an unbelievable, extraordinary entrepreneur and mentor. Can you talk about, like, just all of a sudden, because you're obviously book smart, you did good grades, you're street smart. What was that like? And you're very young, so you're learning all this stuff at a young age. If you could share some of that as far as the journey, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, you've met Lynn.
Yes.
And she's amazing. And no one tells her no. And if they do, she's just going to do it anyway.
That's right.
So being able to have her as a model to figure out, simple things like she helped me buy my first car. Finding a car that's going to work, you're going to be able to get at least 2 to 3 years out of it, that I'm buying again for like $800. Like this is not a fancy car. And setting up my life so that way it makes sense how to build credit, how to save your own money, how to.
But she taught you. She didn't just give it to you.
No.
Like, she taught you. You had to learn. Nothing was given. Here's money for, right. That's
and you
important.
have to think, her son's 2 years into recovery. So as much as she loves me, she
scary.
doesn't know me.
Yeah, it was risky.
So, and she doesn't know what our relationship is going to turn out to.
Yep.
And she knew a lot of my story at that time. So again, here's someone that has a lot of emotional regulation that they have to figure out. How is that trauma going to seep into their life? What the relationship with my adoptive parents and my biological parents was so toxic. And so those are scary things when you have someone that's very fragile.
Yep.
But she has always given everyone a chance, just like she did at CFC. And so she just gave me the tools that I needed, and I could utilize them or I could not, but it was definitely understood, if you're going to be a part of this family, you have to do something.
So when you see I'll make it gender related for a reason, but when you see a powerful force that's a female, not accept no.
Yeah.
Right? Not accept no.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that like for you, based on what your experience was at that point?
Incredible, because up until that point, I didn't know any women in my life that weren't afraid of other men, that weren't afraid to just do whatever it was that they wanted, and did it in such a smart way that, she kind of, she didn't fly under the radar, but she got things done, and without ruffling too many feathers, was able still to make connections and still be soft, and still, make people feel welcome and warm, and really, loving her kids. I'd never seen someone have a healthy relationship with their parents before.
Watch this. So what Alyssa just spoke about, and for you in sales, and if you want to learn integrity, there's 4 energies. There's Zeus energy, where you just go zone action and get something done. There's goddess energy. She just described that Lynn had goddess energy, especially when no came up. She had to bring people together, create certain scenarios, and didn't ruffle any feathers. There's aspirational energy, which is exactly what Alyssas Story has been about this whole time, for anyone that's really listening and taking notes. And then there's fun energy, right? Fun energy is what I like to lean on before I go in, and I don't use the word close in sales. I don't, that doesn't work for me, because I think transformational vocabulary is a real thing. But fun energy exists for me as I'm going to create a formation agreement. Formation agreement means hello to yes, right? So, so for me, fun energy is always part of it. I'll go Zeus, I'll go goddess, I'll go aspirational. But I love my centerpiece is going to be fun energy, right? So that's how I play it. As you're discussing Lynn's 4 energies, for folks that are out there, you want to be able to not ruffle feathers, but that doesn't mean you don't ask for the sale. You don't sit on the sidelines, but it's about how do you politically and diplomatically get people to be aligned, and that's through integrity-based human influence. You got to be able to influence people. And the only way you can influence people, at least in my opinion, and I taught my partner Sean taught me this, Sean Callaghy, it's really being able to get to know them, not them to get to know me.
Right.
really genuinely care about, Alyssa's story, which I do, by the way. And I care about Lynn's story. I care about Daniel's story, because that's more important than my story, right? And that's how you create influence. And when you do it that way with integrity, not like a soulless narcissist, but when you do it like that, I learned narcissist today, folks. I'm 52, just so we're all clear. I learned a real good definition of it today, and it's without a soul. I never knew what it meant, but it's without a soul. Anyway, I just digressed there a little bit. But my point is, integrity with influence is the whole difference. You have the good fortune of being around people that are coming in the door looking for a ray of hope. And Daniel's is an example, Kim's an example, but your story is just as powerful, especially that you're a normie, right? Incredible stuff. And along the way, year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, when did it become apparent to you that, hey, you know what? I could become executive director at this thriving entrepreneur, game-changing, life-changing company?
Yeah. So I had my first daughter, and I started to think about, okay, what can I do with my life that is going to be most impactful for her? Because I want her to know that she can do anything and provide her with a childhood that I didn't have. And I had the steps already. I had a stable relationship, a great family. We had a stable household. And so I really wanted for her to know that all things are possible. I wanted to emulate what Lynn had been for her daughters. And so with her, I went back to school. I became a real estate agent. At the time before that, I was working in the medical field as a medical assistant, and really just doing anything possible to get the next job up and to get the next experience where I could possibly move into more of an executive level.
So you weren't focusing on CFC at that point. You were trying to get your own track.
Yeah, I was very stubborn. I was offered positions multiple times at CFC.
Got it.
But I wanted to have my own thing. And I wanted to feel like I had created something on my own.
Yeah.
Thinking back to it, I would have saved myself
at least 3 years.
Lot of time if I had just jumped in. But I didn't believe that I could do it yet. So that was
part of it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
What made you jump in?
Well, Lynn's dad.
You do it.
Yeah, Lynn's dad actually got really ill, and it was really apparent that was kind of like the last year that we were going to have with him. I had come on already to help my sister-in-law with like the marketing and things. But there was just like little things that started happening where, she had to be his caretaker 24/7.
Yep.
So Ashley couldn't make every single meeting. So Ashley needed to help her more on that executive level, and I started taking over in marketing. And then it just slowly progressed. It was very clear with his passing that she was ready to do other things. Like she wanted to spend time with her family. At the time, we had 2 kids now, so she wanted to be with her grandkids. She wanted to travel, and she'd been doing it for 10 years. And
so if you could describe, like I'm 2 years old, what is your day-to-day job activity?
Day-to-day, there's a lot because we have multiple sober living. So there's always some kind of crisis or something happening with that.
Do you have people around you that report to you?
Yeah, we do. I have staff underneath me that are amazing, very dedicated employees that, are on call 24/7. So the day starts usually with us, approaching whatever those situations are. And then there's a lot of other intricacies that happen where we have zoning issues or we have licensure stuff. Then there's the meetings with all of the people to secure funding. There's writing for grants. There's having conversations with your board members, curating a board. And then still the marketing aspects, all of our fundraising events, all of our flyers and everything, all of those things need to be approved and gone out. So there's quite a lot under
when you
our
look
umbrella.
It's amazing. So when you look at, like, let's say it's January 1st, right? Or let's say it's December 15th. Do you in advance figure out, all right, this is what we're going to do in the first quarter, this is what we're going to do in the second quarter?
Yeah, so we have our entire fiscal calendar out December of the following year for the next year.
Got it.
So we already know what we're doing moving into the year.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are more opportunities that come along, and we can decide at that moment to take them.
Yeah.
We almost always take them, which is why we're always like scrambling from one thing to the next. But yeah, we plan ahead. You have to.
So if I was to go 10 years in the future, right? Because primarily CFC recoveries members are in New Jersey. Is that correct?
Yeah, for now.
Okay, so the goal would be what? To really, if it's 10 years in the future, to be able to have people just like in AA, to be able to go to CFC recovery workshops or programs. Would it be all across the country? Is that what you're building
That's
now?
our goal.
And that's being built. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. And how many different locations? I know you said
we have 3 locations right now in Monmouth and Ocean County.
Yep.
And then we have one coming up in Florida and another one in Pennsylvania.
Okay. And how do you know to expand into the next one? Are you guys always looking for the next one to build out, or you want to get these going first? Like, what is the...
So CFC started just as a relapse prevention program. And then that Dan ventured off from the relapse prevention program to the actual treatment side of things.
Yep.
So he opened Relevance, which is in Freehold. And his goal is to attach aftercare to treatment centers.
Yep.
And a lot of treatment centers haven't really been very receptive to that. So he's creating the new model now, where it's already built into the program.
Got it.
So yeah, that's kind of how we're following now. But CFC itself, because it surrounds multiple pathways of recovery, can really be brought into any community at any time and doesn't need to be attached to any one entity. It runs on its own.
Have you guys created a blueprint and like a how to do a course for people to be able to understand it? Like created a digital program around it or anything?
We've developed that, and it's definitely available to people that are looking to do it. But you have to be a specific type of person to want to run a program like this. It has to still feel grassroots, and still feel like a mother's love. It shouldn't.
And that's the message at all diluted, like that can't be diluted, deleted, or distorted.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I'm a big fan of you and your story. What does it look like for you when it's all said and done? What do you want to be known as? What do you want to be remembered as? What is the blueprint and the footprint that you want to leave behind?
So I think with CFC, I've been given this amazing opportunity, obviously, to help people in recovery, but you could recover from anything. And so I say that I'm a normie, but I am in recovery, experiencing sexual trauma and abuse, being a child of a narcissist. And there's a lot of inner child healing that I am working through right now with a lot of therapy. And so the biggest impact that I want to make is so that other kids that may have gone through the situations that I've been in know that success is possible. And you're going to have to fight your way to get there, but it is a possible thing, and community is so important. And I think it's really just changing the conversation that's had about foster care system and adoption as a whole, is definitely a goal for me. But just being able to help other people. Yeah.
No, you just said something about change and bringing awareness to what that world looks like. I'm sure that's part of the plan.
Yeah.
When this is for me to coach me, but when because times in any given day or any time during the week, the voice will come back to me like, "Hey, you're really not that good. What are you doing? You can't do this. This is all fake. This isn't even like, what do you think you could actually do this stuff?"
Yeah.
How do you combat that inner voice when it comes in on you?
It's really hard. I've been in intensive inner child therapy for about 15 weeks now.
Yeah.
And I really feel like I was in survival mode really up until the birth of my second child, because I didn't feel safe enough. I didn't feel like I was in a place where I could really start exploring who Alyssa is, and really getting into the reasonings why I work. So for me, when I get those like little nagging feelings, I do a lot of breath work, a lot of meditation. I'll reach out to, my support system, which really is Lynn or Dan, or some of my friends. But a lot of it is just reminding yourself that it's okay to think these things and to feel these things, but that doesn't mean that they're true.
Yeah.
And just a lot of push through,
Does the breathing exercise help?
I really feel when I first started the therapy, I was like, although a lot of what CFC is surrounding is in a lot of that. I didn't think it was going to be something that would work for me.
Yeah.
I was just very
Was your brain would it race when you were breathing?
Yeah, and I was just very skeptical of it. Like, how is this
like
actually going
voodoo?
to help me?
Was
And
like,
it felt weird.
Was it magic, like voodoo? Like, this is crazy, like magic. Pixie dust?
Yeah, I mean, just like, how much could
Plum
it possibly...
fairies and unicorns?
How much could it possibly be doing for you? But I feel like over the last, couple of weeks, it's definitely something that I do come back to. And I do a lot of writing. I am a poet. I've been working on my own, story. And so I just kind of, write those things down. I also do my own video journals. So when I feel
love that
whatever,
wow,
I'll talk
I
to
might
myself.
do that. Whoa, that
I feel like they've been
I don't like writing.
Yeah. So I do video journals. I talk to myself in the car or wherever.
Wait, like this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, just like I'm just talking to any person, like I'm writing in a journal.
I love that.
And then I'll delete them, or sometimes I'll listen back to them to hear what I had to say.
That's a nugget right there.
It's just to get your stuff out, and then it's out there, and then you can let go of it.
If money didn't exist, if opinions didn't exist, to make the world a better place, who is Alyssa? When no one's looking, who's Alyssa?
Yeah, I think Alyssa is very soft. She's just gentle and kind and intuitive. A person that wants to help other people. I'm very creative, and I'm really a mom. And I'm healing. I think that's really who Alyssa is right now.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a graduation or anything we do. There's progress, right?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as perfection. But I got to tell you, I'm so thankful that we did this the second time. Super grateful for the time that we spent together.
Yeah.
And your journey is incredible, and I want to just keep doing this. Keep doing check-ins and, just to see what the progress is and everything else that's going on. And, for all you entrepreneurs out there, I mean, if you listen to the whole thing, if you don't think that this is like what success in all areas of life actually looks like, it's right here, it's right in front of you. And I think you're just at the beginning of the beginning. Like, there's so much more, for what's about to happen. And once again, I can't thank you enough. And if you have any other thoughts before that, if anyone wants to learn more about Alyssa, go ahead and click the link below. If people want to check out CFC Recovery and learn more, if you could
so
share
they
that.
can go to healingus.org. You'll be able to see all of our materials on there. You can also give us a call if you or anyone you know is struggling with addiction or looking for a recovery community. It's 1-833-300-HOPE. I think the biggest thing that I would want for people to know is that it doesn't matter what your past is. If you use it as you can weaponize it and use it to your ability to become successful. And you're always going to have that nagging voice in your head. But that's okay. And if you just push through, you will find the other side.
Yeah, it's funny. The nagging voice, when I step out of it, reminds me that I'm on the right path. Mm-hmm. That it's just fear of the change that's about to happen.
Yeah.
But change is always good for me.
Yeah, I find that resistance is good. Yeah. And you push against that resistance. That means that you're doing something that, other people are not able to do.
3 books that you recommend for someone to read that's really touched your soul.
3 books. Oh my goodness. When Breath Becomes Air. That's a great book. It's about a neurosurgeon who finds out that he has cancer. And so he starts talking from a patient's perspective. There's also a book by Morgan Harper. Her book is called Pieces of Practice. It talks about, navigating peace and being able to give yourself grace. And then a 3rd book, I would have to think about that one.
Okay. We'll get back to you on the 3rd book, folks. But in the meantime, check out CFC Recovery. Check out Alyssa, her story, where she's at. The inspiration is there. Daniel, the whole journey with Lynn and Daniel. It really is what God looks like in human form on how a miracle takes place. Because the statistical, if I was to put math to this equation of Lynn, Daniel, and then Alyssa. 10 years later, you might as well just jump in a time machine or get into the multiverse, because I think it's all just like insanely beautiful. And once again, I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.